So what makes me cranky about Independence Day Resurgence? Pretty much everything, actually. Starting with, why does this movie even exist in the first place? Who was clamoring for a sequel to Independence Day? Independence Day was already a near-perfect experience for what it was. It's basically the standard for disaster movies. So why would you want to fuck up that perfectly good experience by coming back and trying to do it all over again with bigger ships and more characters and all the rest of it? This movie even has more speeches because Independence Day had such a great one. Resurgence is practically the definition of shameless cash grab, and boy does it feel like it when you're in the theater. Everything Independence Day got right, Resurgence gets wrong. Remember how beautifully paced Independence Day was? We start with that looming alien threat and the tension builds because we're meeting all these quirky characters who have no idea what's about to happen to them. Then the ships slowly descend out of the sky and into place over the cities, just hover there. Then we learn they're on a countdown to attack, and there's a race to get out of the cities as the countdown ticks down to 0, and then everything stops. Just pauses for a second. Ships open up, and then suddenly, boom, the Empire State Building explodes. And everyone's frantically running for their lives, and it builds up to a shattering climax, and then the movie has the genius to give us a moment of complete silence to let the gravity of what just happened sink in. Resurgence ain't got time for that shit. It has more stuff to introduce. Here's this character, and this one, and this one, and there's something going on in Africa, but wait, something's happening on the moon, and oh shit, there's a giant new ship that's here now, and it's so big it has its own gravity well, and it's sucking up everything that as it plows its way from London to New York, and shit is falling, and we're flying through it, and oh no, we gotta fight back, but it doesn't work, but now we need to get to Area 51, and then there's a video game boss that we all have to shoot at. It just never stops to let you take anything in. Not that it would matter, because so much of it looks fake as shit. Not because somebody doing the CGI fell down on the job, but because your brain has no frame of reference for so much of it. Especially when you're talking about a ship the size of the Atlantic Ocean. Independence Day was very smart to keep the scale to something that you could grasp. We don't spend a whole lot of time with the mothership that's a quarter the size of the moon. We stick to the city-sized ships because you've probably seen the New York or LA skylines and have a grasp of about how big those places are. So when the ship is just hovering over it, you have a real sense of scale that your brain can fathom. And then the rest of the time it focuses on very small areas, like a street in New York or the front lawn of the White House. It doesn't try and show you the entire Atlantic Ocean being carved up because your brain just goes, that just doesn't look real to me. If it happened in real life, you would have trouble comprehending it. Never mind when you put it into CGI. And the first movie, of course, came before all of this CGI crazy bullshit, so we had actual models. We actually blew up a model of the White House, and it looks fantastic. When you blow stuff up today, you can see it's just CGI fire all over the place. And as all of that stuff is happening, of course, we're constantly taking lines from the original movie and stuffing them into this one in weird contexts that don't make any sense, because it's like, hey, you remember when they said this in the original movie? This person would never have any reason to say anything like this in this movie, but you remember, right? You remember that line from Independence Day. You're thrilled now. It's fan service. You're supposed to be happy. Why aren't you smiling? And that's the same reason the old characters are back. Not because they fleshed them out, not because they've sort of taken some time to establish what happened to them over the last 20 years and where they are now and what they're doing. No, it's just because, hey, Jeff Goldblum was there and Bill Pullman was there. Don't you remember? They even bring back characters that have absolutely no purpose in this story just so that they can have them. You remember Jeff Goldblum's character's father? Well, he's back just so they can do a who's that idiot doing that stupid thing joke. It's a total waste of screen time. And on top of that, none of the new characters really get it fleshed out at all, so we don't give a shit about any of them, even though this is ostensibly a passing the torch kind of movie. But I don't care about any of them. They don't really have any personalities. They're just stereotypes. At least in the first movie, you had sort of these quirky people who were kind of fun and they were charming and all of that. None of these people have that level of charisma. They're just there. They're just sort of cardboard cutouts. Placeholders to get us to the next explodey scene. And because it's a movie about blowing stuff up, Resurgence comes with all the usual baggage for movies like this. Plot holes, dumb science, stupid characters acting stupidly, and all the rest of it. Only unlike the original movie, which at least seemed to attempt to paper over some of those plot holes. I mean, they had a whole deleted scene that was supposed to explain the whole laptop hacking the alien mothership thing. This movie is just relying on hitting that nostalgia button as hard as it can. Even half of the score for Resurgence is the original score from Independence Day. In fact, I stayed through the first half of the credits just to listen to the score again because I enjoy it so much. But in this movie, it doesn't work because it doesn't fit the pacing. It doesn't fit the character moments. It's just like, hey, you remember this theme, right? It's the fanfare from the first movie when they win. Isn't that awesome? Don't you feel so nostalgic right now? This is so great, isn't it? Excuse me, sir. Can you put your middle fingers down? I can't see the screen. And of course, this movie has one of the most obvious sequel setups ever. They might as well have put a title card on the screen that says Independence Day 3 coming July 2018. It's ridiculous. It doesn't really care. It's not really trying to be a good movie. It's just trying to give you that feeling of nostalgia if you watched the original one and liked it. And all it did for me was succeed in pissing me off. So yes, Independence Day Resurgence makes me extremely cranky, and I would really prefer it if you not give them your money by going to see it. Maybe if we can finally start making some of these movies tank at the box office, they'll stop doing this. But hey, maybe I'm just too old now to appreciate the simple joy of worldwide destruction porn. Perhaps Resurgence isn't any worse than the original granddaddy of summer world-ending blockbusters, and I just look back on the original Independence Day with the rose-colored glasses of a teenager. Even though I try to watch it every year on the 4th of July, such that the last time I saw it was with the same cynical stare I had in the theater with Resurgence. So, who knows? But if you've seen it, let me know where you stand in the comments. Otherwise, I'll be busy using my telepathic powers to try and force you to like this video and subscribe to my channel.